What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Recher Reacts. I am your host, Jay Recher. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Monday night, whether you're watching here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. Plenty to get into today here on the program. Of course, I always want you guys to follow me on all methods of social media. You see it there at the bottom: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Go check me out there. Follow me. A lot of great content. Had a great weekend for content when it came to USF and the Buccaneers, and we're going to continue to hit that hard for the rest of 2024. Can you believe that October is right around the corner? Absolutely wild. If you've never checked me out on YouTube, all of my videos are over there. So you can go check it out over there. Like and subscribe. Every like and subscription, make sure you hit that notification bell so you know every single time that we go live here on Retro Reacts, or we got the J Retro podcast coming up soon. You don't want to miss that. That is definitely in the works. So just gonna finish crossing some T's and dotting some I's, and then once that happens, yeah, just a new thing that we're doing here on my YouTube channel, an interview podcast with some of the biggest names here in the Tampa Bay area. So really good stuff coming down the pike. And of course, you can hear me every day starting at noon over on Jay and Zach, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620 with my guy, Zach Blobner. James Dolan, our executive producer, doing such a great job. He's made such a big impact on the program. We got a lot of great things going on over at WDAE, including tomorrow, Team Tampa Bay coming together to support those affected by Hurricane Helene, feeding Tampa Bay and iHeartMedia. Tampa Bay joined forces at the Winn-Dixie, located at 11100 4th Street North in St. Pete from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., collecting food, personal hygiene items, and cleaning supplies to help our friends and neighbors across the Tampa Bay area. Our guys, Pat Donovan and Aaron Jacobson, are going to be out there from 12 to 5. So please go on out there. We're going to be promoting it all throughout the day. You know, our coverage starts at 6 a.m. every day, live and local on WDA with our guys on the Pat and Aaron show. So we know that there's been a lot of families affected by Hurricane Helene. So if we can just do a little bit to give back, again, it's the least that we can do. So many families. I mean, just talking to some of my buddies today that couldn't make it out to softball because they were helping families and sending me pictures of their families' houses that were. I want to talk about 3 feet. They were 6 feet, 7 feet underwater. We even have a bunch of account executives at WDAE or at iHeart that haven't been back to work yet because of the tragedy. I mean, it's just so crazy. One of our favorite well, he's not an account executive, he's a sales manager, our guy, Mike Barbaro, one of my dear friends, one of the best guys you'll ever meet. I think the words were, the Gulf of Mexico is in my home. It's really scary. And there was a lot of families out there that were very lucky, mine being one of them. We did not lose power up here in West Chase. We were very fortunate, but unfortunately, there is a lot more people that did not get so lucky. So if you can give back in any way, please do so. And again, I'll give you that information here because it is so vitally important. Tomorrow, Team Tampa Bay coming together, feeding Tampa Bay and iHeartMedia Tampa Bay, 11100 4th Street North in St. Pete, right there at the Winn-Dixie from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Please help out and do whatever you can. All right, what are we going to talk about today on the program? No, we're not going to talk about bad base running and my softball team, because if we do that, I'm going to freak out. Tough night for what's our name? Slightly above average. Everybody asked me about the Pendingos. Pendingos Wednesday, SBA on Monday. Tough loss tonight. I was none too happy, but we're not going to talk about that. What we will discuss is the passing of the one and only Pete Rose, 83 years young. Um, One of the most polarizing figures in sports history. We're going to discuss that. And also whether he belongs in the Hall of Fame or not, because that is one question. I think it's kind of like where's Jimmy Hoffa buried, or the old school TV question like who shot JR? And that is going to be a question that you're going to hear from both sides. Does Pete Rose belong in the Hall of Fame? So I'm going to give you my 2 cents on that. Also, another thing, there are 13 teams in the National Football League that are 2-2 through 4 games. Pretty wild. Uh, you can kind of get an idea of like who the best teams are, and we were wondering if the Lions were going to be added to that list. As we're recording, they're up 42-29 with a buck 16 left at home against the Seahawks. It's going to be a tall mountain to climb for the Seattle Seahawks to add the Detroit Lions to that list, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that they are going to win that game. If they do, maybe I'll have to amend the list. But as of right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 teams. Yes, I counted right. 13 teams at 2-2 so far in the NFL season. That is wild. And then we'll end it with a full Monday Night Raw recap. What a great way to end Monday Night Raw tonight, and also their go home show before the Bad Blood premiere live event or premium live event this weekend in Atlanta. That should be a hell of a card. As always, I want to hear from you here on Recher Reacts. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them there at the bottom of the screen, whether you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook. I want to hear from you. So we'll start with Pete Rose. And, again, the big question is, does Pete Rose belong in the Hall of Fame? It's a question that will forever be asked as long as he's not in, especially on a day like this when Charlie Hustle passes away at his home in Nevada at the age of 83. The Hit King had an incredible career with World Series trophies, All-Star appearances, MVPs, but the fact that he bet on baseball is the black cloud that he was never truly able to shake. He denied it for a long time before finally admitting to it decades later. Some are going to argue that he never bet on his own team, but we know that if a skipper is managing for just one game and not for the totality of the season, like that could certainly skew his judgment a little bit. But there is a large contingent of people say that he served his time and they should just put him in the hall already. I mean, hell, I remember going to Cooperstown back in 2010, about 15 years ago. And the first thing I saw as soon as I walked in those doors was a large cutout of Pete Rose sliding into third base headfirst, hair flying, dirt everywhere. An image that, like, when you close your eyes, you can still see it to this day. Um, Something that doesn't sit quite well with me is that there are gambling sites all over baseball and pretty much every pro sports nowadays. And you can't even go one day without seeing the betting odds of a team in a sporting contest. I've always been kind of conflicted on this topic, to be honest with you guys. You know, Part of me says, he broke the rules. And if he does the crime, he's got to do the time. But the other part of me says, like, hasn't he done the time? Like, why can't we separate what he did as a manager and what he did as one of the greatest players of all time? I guess in my heart of hearts, I wanted to see Pete Rose get his moment in the sun and have his day where he's celebrated for all the good things that he did for the game. But unfortunately, we know now that that day will never come. This is one of those topics where you're going to get people on both sides. You're going to get people that are so vehement that he should never be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He broke the rules. He's a cheater. I don't care. He's out. He should be out. Never, ever should he be allowed in. Then you get people on the other side that are going to say, come on already. Look at what other people have done in the Hall of Fame. I mean, look at what Ty Cobb did in his lifetime. They didn't take him out of the Hall of Fame, right? Betting is happening all over the place nowadays. I mean, it's a lot. And I'm one of those people that I don't necessarily need to have money on a game to enjoy it. I know I might be sick for things like that, but gambling it's sullied the games. It's sullied sports a little bit, in my opinion. Every single game is, what's the over under? What's the spread? How much money did you put any money on this game? It's just like, enough already. Like, I didn't watch Alabama, Georgia because somebody was the favorite. I didn't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I don't watch the Australian Open every single year because I want to see what the odds are like for Carlos Alcaraz to win. Like, I don't. I know as we progress in time, I may be in the minority, but it's all encompassing. It's everywhere. It's not just fantasy football or fantasy baseball. It's gambling, it's betting, it's these live shows. It's a $1 billion industry and it's never going to go away. So for people out there that say, "Hey, look at this $1 billion industry," and then look at what Pete Rose was, excommunicated for, it kind of seems hypocritical. Kind of seems like a double standard. And I get that. But I also understand where people are coming from when they say, Pete broke the rules. He broke the rules and he has to live with that. Well, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Things change, rules change, and it's almost like saying, well, you bought a beer, you bought beer illegally at 19. Well, the rules used to be you only had to be 18. Well, the rules change. It's a conversation that until he gets in will never ever stop. And I think a lot of people that grew up with Pete Rose as their favorite player, like my buddy Paul Russo, I mean, those guys will forever stand on the ground that he should be in. And then you get people on the other side, people that are vehement. Again, I use that word again, that there's no way that he should ever grace the halls of Cooperstown in the Hall of Fame and have his plaque up there. I don't know. It's kind of tough to say that. It's kind of tough to make that argument though when you walk around the Hall of Fame and you still see pictures of him. It's not like they've completely erased his memory from the history of baseball. So what you're saying is you can kind of celebrate all the things that he did, but you can't celebrate him. That kind of seems a little bass backwards, doesn't it? I agree. All right, good stuff there. Let's move on to my top 2-2 teams. There are 13 2-2. How crazy is that? My guy Paul Russo, as I just say that, as I put out my thing on Facebook, my guy Paul just commented on my Facebook 100% yes. I love you, Paulie Walnuts. And I'll definitely put that in my video when I cut this up. How crazy is that? Awesome. Great friends that I got. Love you, Paulie. All right. There's 13 teams in the National Football League that are 2-2. 13 of them. But who's the best? Who is the best 2-2 team right now in the NFL? I ask you that question. I feel free to leave that comment wherever you watch this on social media. Um, who is the best 2-2 team right now in the NFL? I'm going to give you my top five. Number one, Baltimore Ravens. You saw it against the Bills. That running game with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Defense led by guys like Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton. They've got great coaching with John Harbaugh. They are legit. When you watch that game on Sunday night, you could almost see that game happening in January in the playoffs. They're going to be a tough out, Baltimore. And it just something says that the only team that's going to be able to handle them in the AFC is probably going to be the team that knocked them out last year, the Kansas City Chiefs. Number two, the San Francisco 49ers. And I know they're not 100%, but Brock Purdy has done a really good job keeping this team afloat, but they're going to get healthier. CMC is going to be okay after traveling to Europe in a mysterious trip to Germany. Jordan Mason has filled in phenomenally in his absence. They have a bunch of weapons with Kittle and Debo and Ayuk and that defense. They're just leaders all over the place, including who, in my mind, is probably one of the best players in all of football, Fred Warner. San Francisco at 2-2. I'm sure there's a lot of teams out there that wish they were in a more precarious position. Number three, the Green Bay Packers. A furious comeback. Came up a little bit short against the Minnesota Vikings the other day, but this is a well-balanced team, a truly special quarterback, in my opinion, in Jordan Love. I like what they're all about. I really do. And he brought them all the way back. They scored, 20? They scored over 20 points, 22. It was great to see him back in uniform with the Green Bay Packers. He's a really good quarterback. He really is. I love the acquisition of Josh Jacobs. Those young wide receivers really seem to mesh well with Jordan Love. And how about the pickup of Xavier McKinney? 4 interceptions, one of the best moves in the offseason. Number 4 for me, the Indianapolis Colts. Not enough people showing respect for the Colts and the job done by Shane Steichen. So impressed what he was able to do last year with Gardner Minshew at the helm, with Anthony Richardson being banged up, and then again this year they're 0-2. Some close games, and then they win their last two over the Bears and the Steelers. Three tackling machines on defense with EJ Speed, Nick Cross, and Zaire Franklin. They all have over 40 tackles through 4 games. That team is one of those teams that kind of flies under the radar a little bit, but I really like watching them play. They're well coached, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make the postseason once again. And then number 5, this was a tough one because I do like the Chargers. I do understand where uh, maybe a team like the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, and that stellar defense. I just don't trust the health and the depth of the Chargers, nor do I trust Robert Saleh for the Jets. So I'm going to give it to the Atlanta Falcons. They're only a couple plays away from being 0-4. I get it, but you have to give Raheem Morris and the Dirty Birds some credit for winning those close games over the Eagles and then over the Saints. Uh, they can make a real statement on Thursday night against the Buccaneers. The division still goes through Tampa Bay, but Atlanta can make a huge, huge proclamation that the times they are changing if they come out with the dub on Thursday night. All right. Before we wrap things up here on Recher Reacts, we definitely want to get into the Monday Night Raw recap. What a great episode from start to finish in their last episode before Bad Blood this weekend. And it starts with Jey Uso, comes out on the microphone 1 week after winning the Intercontinental Championship. And what an emotional moment for him. What a great moment to see him celebrated. He's come such a long way in his career. And in the middle of his very emotional monologue there, he gets interrupted by Braun Breaker. So we're wondering what's going to happen here with Braun. Is he going to spear Jey Uso? Are they going to kind of, reignite this flame? Or from what I think a lot of people have read online the last week or so, it looks like WWE is going to go forward with Braun Breaker as a babyface, and I think that's the right move. So he goes there. He says he's not here to crash the party. He's not here to spear Jey Uso. He just wants to show him respect. He shakes his hand, and then Jay kind of calls him back, and he says, "Hey, there's a lot of dogs here." And that is one of those comments that gives kind of there's a lot of dogs here in Illinois, or a lot of dogs here in Evansville. Those are the comments that give away what direction that the WWE wants to go with certain wrestlers. Because if it was just kind of like, all right, you let it go and you don't say anything and you leave that door open for Braun Breaker to turn on, and he still might do that. But the fact that Jey Uso says that, hey, there's some dogs here, that was almost like the exclamation point of like, hey, we might come back to this, but it seems like they're on a path for Braun Breaker to be a babyface, and I like that. Put him up against uh, maybe a guy like Bronson Reed. Put him up against some of these other big time guys. If Sami Zayn and Gunther is not a long term thing, maybe Braun Breaker challenges Gunther. I would be all about that. Next up was the match between Rey Mysterio and Xavier Woods. We can see the heel turn coming for Woods. And what a smart way to book this match where Woods accidentally pulls off Rey Mysterio's mask. So Rey covering his face, because we know how that goes, Woods rolls him up for the victory. I This was so well done and so well written. You want to blur the lines for Xavier Woods, where he's still technically a baby face, but he's kind of having that internal struggle. And we're wondering, like, was it really on accident that he did that? This is great. It's plausible deniability to its core. And you just kind of drag this on a little bit. And we'll see more from Woods here in a bit. Also, we see Lyra Valkyria and Zoe Stark. Um, that was a decent match. But we see Caden Carter and Katana Chance coming back. They make the save, and listen, some of these matches and some of these, when you don't have outside of the Rhea versus Liv Morgan, I mean, this is the second best storyline on Raw when it comes to the females, and they're given the Pure Fusion Collective. I still hate that moniker for them, but they're trying. I don't know if it catches. I don't know if this is a segment where people are like, "Man, I got to see that again." It's tough, and I want to like it, but it's still missing something. It's still missing a star. It's still missing that can't miss type of aspect to it, and it's something that they certainly have to figure out. Next up, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre face to face in Hell in a Cell. I love this. No physicality. Have all the security guards in the ring. Drew McIntyre saying that his hate will die with Punk at Hell in a Cell. It doesn't look like CM Punk's going to speak, and then he does. And another very very passionate promo. It's not a god you're praying to. It's not the devil you're praying to. You will be praying to CM Punk. A plus. Good stuff. That promo right there makes you want to buy. I always want to say a pay per view. It makes you want to buy the PLE. It's not the way it goes anymore. I mean, people complain about buying Peacock all the time, and I'm like, well, I've had Peacock for WWE for years, so it doesn't bother me. And for soccer, of course. So when people complain about, the football game, the NFL game's on Peacock, like, yeah, there's a lot of great content on there, including WWE. But if it was the old school days of pay per views, that promo and this whole storyline is something where, like, hey, I would definitely want to buy it because of those two guys. Next up, the LWO and the Judgment Day. Decent match there. Finn Balor earlier in the show says, oh, he's traveling. He missed, he's not going to be there. He comes out, helps the Judgment Day to a win. And then I thought it was kind of weird that they go to break and then they come back and the Judgment Day still in the ring. And you knew, all right, here comes Rhea, here comes Damian Priest. We knew that was going to happen. And they set up that Dominic is claustrophobic. He doesn't like to be on the inside of a shark cage. Just kind of the same old rigmarole when it comes to this Judgment Day storyline. And they're getting to a point where, unfortunately, I think to me, it might be getting a little stale. What is going to be, like, what's the difference after this, right? It's Priest against Balor. It's Liv against uh, Rhea Ripley with Dom in the shark cage. But is this like the blow off match for each one of those storylines? Like, where do we get to the end? Like, does it get to Survivor Series? We'll see. Next up, Kofi Kingston against Chad Gable. This, and again, we're talking about another progression in the storyline where it looks like Kofi Kingston's going to set up Chad Gable for trouble in paradise. He flings him into the ropes, and Xavier Woods tries to trip Chad Gable. Kofi goes for the move, misses it, and then Gable hits him with Chaos Theory for the win. So there, another thing where Xavier Woods tries to help Kofi Kingston, but he screwed up and he cost Kofi the match. We saw a little bit earlier too that Kofi let Woods know that he's going to get a crack at Jey Uso, and he says, "I can beat Jey Uso." So there's just more and more layers for this, and it's coming apart. I love it. Love that storyline. There's so many good ones right now in WWE. Next up, Gunther comes up to the ring. The ring general has arrived, and after back and forth with Sammy kind of baits him, and then they go back and forth. Gunther power bombs him, and he grabs a microphone and says, "Sammy, you've got your match." Yes, he does. And I don't know when we're going to see that. Probably not going to be at Bad Blood because they really didn't say that. Um, that would be kind of a weird thing to do. World Heavyweight Championship. Don't rush it. Get it at Survivor Series. I think that would be a perfect time for it. Next up, Awesome Truth versus the Authors of Pain. Truth working most of the match, and then he tags in Miz. Miz turns around and then boots Truth in the face. He walks away, rips up his Awesome Truth shirt. Akam and Razor hit their finisher against R-Truth. And there you go. That's the end of Awesome Truth for now. They'll probably get together, years from now, but it's good. Miz needs to get back to being a heel, and that's makes a lot of sense. Just that's where he does his best work. And then finally, the last monster standing match between Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. What an incredible feat. I mean, just two huge guys going after it tonight. I loved it. It was so great to see these guys going back and forth and back and forth. I just, where do you start? Like, Bronson, he speared Braun Strowman through the second layer into the stands. Braun Strowman jumps off the top rope, and then they do the big spot where the ring explodes. We knew that was coming, and it ends with Braun Strowman and Braun Breaker. I mean, Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed both about to get up, and then you hear the fans going crazy. And who shows up after being out for weeks? Seth Rollins. He hits Bronson Reed with the stomp right on the steel steps. Braun Strowman gets to his feet before the count of 10, and the monster of all monsters, Braun Strowman, wins. But what a great storyline with these guys. It has been fantastic. They've told an incredible story for these last couple of weeks together. And, interested to see where they go from here. Seth and Bronson Reed, is that a storyline now? Do they go back to Bronson and Braun? But wow, the physicality in this match. There was no dull moment. There was no point where people were looking at it like, oh, okay, they multiple commercial breaks, and they just kept firing. They kept performing at a high level. This was I think, a kind of a career making performance for Bronson Reed. This entire storyline, starting with Seth Rollins and then The Miz and R-Truth, and then now with Braun Strowman. This is the type of thing where they're going to look at him and go, this is a big time player. This is a main event guy. And I wouldn't hate to see him in the Intercontinental title race, um, because I think you got to put some gold on this guy. He is that damn good. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me tonight here on Recher Reacts. As always, I want to hear from you. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Go follow me there. A lot of great things we got going on. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We got a lot of great content coming for you, especially in the next couple of weeks with the Lightning going to be back in action. I cannot wait for that. And I'm going to tell you one more time, tomorrow, Feeding Tampa Bay and iHeartMedia Tampa Bay joining forces at the Winn-Dixie at 11100 4th Street North in St. Pete from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., collecting food, personal hygiene items, and cleaning supplies to help our friends and neighbors across the Tampa Bay area. Our guys, Pat Donovan and Aaron Jacobson, they're going to be out there from 12 to 5. So go by there and say hi and help those in need. They'll kick off our coverage tomorrow on DAE at 6 a.m. Jay and Zach with my guy, Zach Blodmer, and myself, and James Donlin at noon. And then, of course, The Drive with T. Kraz, Tom Krasnicki at 3 p.m. All right, guys, go get some rest. I'm going to go cut up some of these videos and keep on chugging along. I appreciate everybody for the love and the support and for everybody tuning in. We'll see you next time right here on Retro Reacts. Peace out.